let me just tell you that a few things has happened to let us know that Iraq is ready. First of all, as I told you all a week or two ago, Iraq has announced that they are fully self-sustainable. They're taking care of their own self in terms of energy. They're no longer relying on Iran. They're taking care of themselves in terms of oil. They've made contracts with Russia and other nations. They are taking care of themselves and as it relates to their own currency. As a matter of fact, Al Sudani, the prime minister of Iraq, has told the Iraqi people that they cannot buy the United States dollar. And if they are caught buying the United States dollar by any means necessary, even on the black markets, they will be severely dealt with, like in prison, or their life may be at stake. So Al Sudani says, trust in your own currency. Don't trade with the United States dollar. We are taking steps to get rid of corruption in our country. And I'm going to show you something else about how Iraq has recently said they're committed to their sovereignty. So we're committed to our sovereignty. We're getting rid of corruption. We've worked with other countries to return our stolen money. And we are working with the Central Bank of Iraq to revalue the Iraqi dinar against the USD. As such, everybody is to stop trading with the United States dollar here in our country and rely on their own strength, their own sovereignty, and their own currency. Then we just heard that the World Bank approved on last Wednesday a $930 million project or loan for Iraq to modernize their railroad network. This was strengthen domestic and regional trade. So this $930 million loan that the World Bank is giving to Iraq equates to $1 trillion worth of money to modernize Iraq's railway network. Is a monumental, is huge, because not only are they improving their railway network, but you all know that they have become the transportation hub of the Middle East and of the world as of April 1st. So this $900 million USD converted to be 100 trillion Iraqi dinar loan will strengthen their domestic and regional trade. This is coming on the precipice of President Trump saying that we already beautified or restructured their railway. He said that under his first administration. He said, we've improved our infrastructure. We've supported Iraq. We defended them against Iran. We created a beautiful railway system. Their airports rival anything that we have in New York. And now you have the World Bank giving them $930 million. This Iraqi railway extension and modernization system that is called IREM, REM, will upgrade their 1,000 kilometer railway line that connects Qasr Port in the south region to the Mosul port in the north region via Baghdad. And I'll just bring up my notes so you can read along with me, and I'll show you the article from which I got that information. So keep checking in, family. I see you here. I appreciate you all being here. Greetings to you all. Thank you, Chief Mac, for the $50 supporting Dr. Kia Pruitt. I love you so much. So many things are happening, family. I'm glad you're here. I just did a podcast on the main channel, so I was just a little late coming onto this one, but I owe you all some information, even though I am in the middle of a vacation. So Chief Mac and Soul Tribe family, this railroad system here will increase and bolster domestic and regional trade and support economic diversification. So what that's saying is expanding trade between Iraq and the rest of the world by way of this railway or railroad network. I don't know why I'm having a hard time saying this. Okay. The Iraq Railway Extension and Modernization, or the IREM project, will upgrade their 1,047 kilometer railway line that connects Qasr Port in the south to the Mosul port in the north by way of Baghdad. This project is going to enhance travel efficiency, freight capacity. So now they'll be able to carry more and access to sustainable transport. It'll increase access to sustainable transport infrastructure, and it will support Iraq's broader ambition to become a regional logistic hub through the Iraqi Development Road. This aims to link the Gulf with Europe by way of Turkey. So you're going to connect Iraq and the Middle East region to Europe by way of Turkey with this new system. And they'll be able to do it again with this huge loan that's been given to them by the World Bank. Now, we knew that this loan was coming, but it has been implemented. Now, they've been given that loan. Here are the components of this project. Number one, rehabilitation of critical rail infrastructure. So the infrastructure was not up to par because of the war that had been going on in that Middle Eastern region in Iraq. So now they're rehabbing that. Remember what I told you? It's crazy because whenever a nation doesn't want to go along with the United States Incorporated and trade with the USD, or they don't want to go along with any political agenda that we have here in America or by way of the United States Incorporated, the United States Incorporated would declare war on those nations, tear up the infrastructure, fund both sides of the war, tear up the infrastructure, right? And that would demolish or decimate the currency. That's what happened in Iraq. The infrastructure was decimated, the GDP was decimated, the currency was devalued. And then these numbskulls, United States Incorporated, who funded both sides of the war, would go into Iraq and these nations, buy up the currencies that had been devalued through war, hold on and wait. Hold on to those currencies, go into those nations, rebuild the infrastructure. Then the Iraqi dinar would go up in value, and then they would revalue the dinar and go to the bank and cash in the dinar with the higher rate, and they would enrich themselves. That's what you see happening here. They rehabilitating the critical rail infrastructure. Okay, it's the end of that war. It's the end of the era. Trump is bringing troops back home. Iran no longer controls Iraq. The war is over. Iran no longer has nuclear weapons. They don't control Iraq. They're not importing any oil or any power into Iraq. They don't have any nuclear weapons. Now it's time for us to go back and rebuild the infrastructure. What happens? The people during the war that bought up that currency, the Iraqi dinar that had been devalued through the war, is paying attention, seeing the infrastructure be rebuilt, and they know that a revaluation is about to occur. It happens all the time. And now we're about to go to the bank with the new value. Okay, I'm going to lay it out for you so you can see this has happened historically, but now that you see it with your eyes that this has happened, you know it's time. This will modernize the aging locomotives and their rolling stock. It will upgrade or bring upgrades to the Baiji maintenance workshop. The development of dry ports and logistic hubs will attract private investors. So now with the ports and the hubs being revitalized and the railroads and the infrastructure being rebuilt, you're going to attract private investments. Can you see what's happening, family? Another component of the project, implementation of a safety management system and infrastructure safety improvements. So now it will be safe. They're implementing protocol to ensure that the railroads are safe. Technical assistance and training for Iraqi Republic Railway, so the IRR personnel, with a focus on including women. No more discrimination against women, which was a big problem or issue in the Middle East. Now they're bringing women on board. They're making progress, and now technical assistance and training for personnel will be implemented. And that's a good job for the women. You train them to do technical assistance. You train them to do customer service. You train them in any way to assist the railways to work properly. Another component of this project, community engagement through a participatory planning and monitoring process. So now you're building the infrastructure, you're making sure that the railroads are in place, you're making sure that you have technical assistance, and then you bring on community engagement so that the entrepreneurs, the people using the railroad systems, and the politicians are all meeting and agreeing to how this system is going to look. The article from which I'm Getting my note says that the Middle East is witnessing a resurgence in regional railways. Why? Because the railways have been demolished through war, years and years of war. They're rebuilding the infrastructure. Oh my God, family. I know I say this over and over, but what made the United States dollar the world reserve currency was our agreement with Saudi Arabia to get oil from Saudi Arabia in exchange for protecting their kingdom. As an agreement, we protect the Saudi empire in exchange for their oil. We force all nations to get oil from Saudi Arabia, and they must use the United States dollar. That's what made the United States incorporated, have financial and economic hegemony. That's what made the United States dollar, the USD, be the world reserve currency. If you didn't want to go along with the program, we put sanctions on you, or we declare war against you. We fund both sides of the war. We demolish your infrastructure. We bring down the value of your currency. The people in the know would go buy up the currency while the currency was devalued. Then America would go back in, rebuild the infrastructure. Can you see it happening? And those who had the dinar, or the currency of those nations, will wait for the currency to go up in value once the infrastructure is in place, and they will make millions, if not billions and trillions of dollars. But before, it was only certain people in the know, CEOs of banks, leaders, world leaders, people that's part of the Illuminati, etc. They knew, top people. But now we know this, and we see it happening where the infrastructure is being rebuilt. They're witnessing a resurgence in regional railways, bolstering trade routes within the region and with Asia and Europe to enhance connectivity and drive regional economic growth. Regional economic growth in the Middle East and Iraq. This is going to call for an increase in the demand of the Iraqi dinar, so says Dr. Kia Pruitt. Because when we made that announcement that Iraq has now become a transportation hub of Iraq, of the Middle East, and of the world, when they connected their transportation system to 66 countries, what do we say that maybe a month or two ago, that increased the demand for the Iraqi dinar. This rebuilding and resurgence of the railways will also increase the demand for the Iraqi dinar. What happens? What is the law of supply and demand? As the demand increases, the supply decreases, thus making that commodity more valuable. So if there's a high in the demand of the Iraqi dinar, then that means that the supply is going to decrease, which means they're going to have to revalue the currency and make it be more valuable, put a higher value on it. Here is one of the quotes from the article that says, as Iraq shifts from reconstruction to development, enhanced trade and connectivity can now stimulate growth. So now the region is going to grow. It's going to cause more job creations and reduce oil dependency on other nations. In other words, Iraq has become a self-sustained nation. They're rebuilding their infrastructure. They're now growing. Their economy is growing. And they're reducing their dependency on other nations. In other words, they've become sovereign. World Bank Middle East Division Director says that the REM project is vital for transforming Iraq into a regional transport hub and helping achieve the IDR's goal of improved connectivity and economic diversification and growth. And here is that article, Iraq Business News is where I got it from. Let me see how you all feel about that. Let me go ahead and put that article in the chat for you. Let's see. World Bank approves $930 million for Iraq railway upgrade. I'm looking for that for you. And the source is the World Bank. It actually came from the World Bank, but you can find it in the Iraqi news outlet here. Here's the article. I am having a nice vacation. Thank you. So thank you so much. What else is in the news? Iraq Iraq must be a strong state and possess all the means necessary to defend its sovereignty. That statement just came out by the Secretary General of the Islamic Dawa Party. His name is Al Maliki. He stressed the necessity of having a strong state in Iraq that possesses all the means necessary to defend their sovereignty. And he also pointed out that sovereignty is not just a slogan that's used for political purposes, but sovereignty is a state of mind, it is a state of being, and it is what they must do. Again, the person that said this was the Secretary General of the Islamic Dawa Party, and I'll show you that article. You keep hearing the word sovereign come up in Iraq whenever the prime minister speaks or other people in power speak, because they're tired of being controlled by Iran. They're tired of being controlled by other nations. They're even tired of having to do whatever the United States Incorporated tells them to do, although they see our military being their role being advisory. Okay, but they don't need advice anymore. They're like, we're self-sustainable. We're taking care of ourselves. We are implementing our own way of life, our own rules. We're controlling our own wealth from now on. So the Secretary General of the Islamic Dawa Party says, we say that we learn from Hussein, a former leader, how to triumph whenever we're oppressed. And we learn from Hussein what our duty is towards our own nation and what it deserves from us in terms of our sacrifice, our steadfastness, and our commitment. And we learn from Hussein that the nation needs reform and needs someone to lead this reform process. Then he goes on, he talks about Zionism. He said, today, in light of the dangerous transformation and all the challenges that the region is witnessing and the wars of the Zionist entities that have begun to roll from the Gaza Strip to Lebanon, then Syria, and reach the Islamic Republic of Iraq, Iraq will not be safe from them, as stated in the speech that was delivered by the representative of the Supreme Religious Authority, Sheikh al-Karabalini, last Thursday. He stressed that Iraq must stand strong and must be a strong state and possess all the means to defend its sovereignty and its people and its sacrifices. And I'll show you that article from which I'm bringing up this article because essentially what they're saying in Iraq is we got to fight by any means necessary to maintain rule and supremacy of our own affairs. No longer can we allow any entity or any nation, especially those that are attached to the Zionist regime, to control us. Where is that? Here. I'm going to show you that article. So the article was originally in Arab, but you can translate it. Let me see if I can bring that up for you. You can have it translated in English. And I already brought it up translated. Let me see. Where does it allow you to translate it in English? Let me see if I can find you the translated version. Because this is what it looks like in Arab, but you can translate it or get it translated. 1 second. Here we go. Where's that article? I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put the translated version in the description section for you because I'm not seeing the translated version. Okay. And then basically the article just says that they have to defend their sovereignty at all costs. But I had something else I wanted to say from that article. I can't remember what he said, but I'll put that in the description section for you. And then I also wanted to bring to your attention an article that I actually put on the post of the membership only group. And let me bring that up here for you because I don't know if everybody saw that post right here. We're talking about Iraq and how Iraq has become a self-sustainable nation, and how they got a loan from the World Bank to help with their infrastructure, and how they're saying they must defend their sovereignty at all costs. Here, Iraq said that they are doing what it takes to attract investors. Iraq to attract investments through their new initial public offerings. Basically, they're noting that they plan to introduce new companies through initial public offerings aimed at encouraging domestic investors, people that are right there that can invest in their nation, to engage with profitable firms that offer regular dividends. This is expected to boost investor confidence and increase market activity. So let me start from the beginning. The Iraqi Securities Commission, the ICS, hold on. I often do this. Let me go to the membership group. Hold on, fam. I got to get back. Whenever you move from, whenever I try to enlarge the screen, sometimes it disappears. So what I'm not going to enlarge the screen. I'm just going to read the whole article for you. And then I'll put this link to in the description section so you can see it and read it yourself later. Let's see. That's the wrong link. Here it is. The Iraqi Security Commission has announced new efforts to attract or enhance the attractiveness of the Iraqi Stock Exchange, focusing on corporate governance and expanding the base of listed companies. So they're going to include more companies on the Iraq Stock Exchange. The state-run Iraqi news agency quoted an ISC board member, Al-Taha, as saying that the launch of a corporate governance guide marks a key step towards strengthening the investment climate. So they want people domestically to start investing in their own nation, invest in their own products, and invest in their own companies so that they can enrich themselves as a nation. He noted that the commission plans to introduce new companies through initial public offerings aimed at encouraging domestic investors to engage with profitable firms that offer regular dividends. He added that these reforms send a message to international investors as well that Iraq's capital market is moving toward greater transparency. So now Iraq's market is becoming transparent, it's self-sustainable, it's becoming more effective. There's less risk in investing in their stock market and investing in their companies by saying, look, domestically, we want you all to invest in your own companies here in Iraq. That's sending a message to the whole world that Iraq is becoming sovereign, more self-sustainable, more transparent, and more investment worthy for outsiders to invest. So why would outsiders or people from other nations invest in a country if your own entrepreneurs and people won't invest in it? So now that the Iraqi people are being encouraged to invest in their own stock market, in their own companies, the whole world is looking at that. That's huge. Basically, Iraq is open for business. He also highlighted that Iraq's recent integration into an international platform. Now, Iraq's not only focusing on themselves, they're integrating their business ideology, their transportation hub, their new railroad system into the global market. Their integration into an international platform includes 9 global markets, placing the ISX under international observation and accelerating the need for reform. So if you have the whole world looking at your nation, you're going to implement reforms. And one of the things that we've been saying for a while is in order for the Iraqi dinar to revalue, you have to implement certain reforms, and we see that happening. You have to have economic stability, and you have to have reforms that are implemented, political reforms, business reforms, investment reforms, all types of reforms to ensure that your country is sustainable and profitable. All these reforms These new things that are happening in Iraq is putting them in position to go ahead and revalue their Iraqi dinar. The commission's broader strategy includes these things. Number one, strengthening the corporate governance framework. Number two, they're expanding their training programs. Number three, they're increasing the number of high quality, profitable listed companies. Number four, they're diversifying their market offerings to reduce risk and enhance returns. Number five, they said 103 companies are listed on their stock exchange, but investor activity is concentrated on only 20 to 25 firms. But they expect that to grow. The commission aims to widen the range of active, reliable investment opportunities. The commission aims to widen the range of active, reliable investment opportunities. They want not only people in country to invest in the stock market and to invest in companies right there, they are looking for investors outside of the country to invest in Iraq. And the source here is Iraq News Agency. And I need to find that source for you. I saw Iraq News Agency, but I'm going to find that exact source. But I will put that post that I put on our private group community section right there. Oh, and here's the article where I was saying that they spoke about the Zionists previously controlling Iraq and how they have to become sovereign from the Zionists. I found that article as well. Let me see if I can pull it up for you. It was written in, I think it was written in Arabic, but I had it transcribed or translated to English. In light of the dangerous transformation and challenges that the region was witnessing and the wars of the Zionist entity that have begun to roll from the Gaza Strip to Lebanon, then Syria, and reaching to the Islamic Republic, Iraq will not be safe from them, as stated in the speech delivered by the representative of the Supreme Religious Authority, Sheikh Abdul Mahdi al-Karabali, last Thursday. He stressed that Iraq must be a strong state and possess all the means to defend its sovereignty, its people, and its sanctities. He pointed out that the world around us possess all the reasons for strength, and Iraq must be at the same level as the world, not for the sake of war, as in the era of the defunct Ba'ath region, but to protect our sovereignty and our rights and the supreme interests of the people. I'll say it again. He said that the whole world around us possess all the reasons for strength. They possess the reasons for strength, and Iraq must be on the same level, not for the sake of war, but to protect our sovereignty. He concluded by saying, peace be upon Hussein, who is their former leader, and upon Ali bin Hussein, and upon the brothers of Hussein and the companies of Hussein who sacrificed their lives for Hussein, peace be upon him. So in this speech, basically, al-Maliki said that Iraq has to be strong because he was observing what was going on with the Zionist regime, what they were doing, what Iran was doing, and the Zionists, what they were doing in certain regions of the Middle East. And he said, we have to protect ourselves. We have to be sovereign. We have to be strong. We can't depend on anybody else. We had, just like all these other nations are strong and they defend themselves against the Zionists, we have to defend ourselves against the Zionists. So you see them taking a stance toward sovereignty. You see them saying they have to defend themselves. You see them getting a $930 million, was it $1 million? A loan from the World Bank to improve or modernize their railway network. You see them becoming a transportation hub of the Middle East and of the world. You see them just taking a stance to also encourage their people to invest in their own companies there on the Iraqi stock exchange, and they are sending messages to outside investors saying invest in our companies here in Iraq. So a lot is going on in Iraq to let us know that they're ready. We told you a couple weeks ago they said they're self-sustainable or self-sufficient. And then I just saw an article that says 9 Iraqi top court members resign, and this is over a dispute regarding some of their public workers or public officers, people that work for their government, haven't been paid. And since their court hasn't ruled on anything in terms of how they're going to pay their people in the administration, pay their government workers, they're like, you know what? We're just going to resign. That's all we know about the resignation. And I don't know exactly what the implications are, but it's noteworthy. They're talking about it. And they also stress that they're not really going into detail why these top officials resign, but they know that it's a critical move. Kurdistan region. 9 members of Iraqi's federal Supreme Court submitted their resignation on Thursday in protest against the court's chief justice, casting a planned session on the Kurdistan region's civil servant salaries into uncertainty. The civil servants, the government workers, don't know when they're going to get paid. And so court members are saying, since the chief justice can't rule, we're quitting. 6 main and 3 reserve members of the court resigned over disputes with the Chief Justice Amari, according to Radal's reporters on the ground. The court is made up of a total of 9 main members and 4 reserves. 9 people who resigned. The statement was issued that the behavior of the court president is unacceptable to us, and we're tired of dealing with his workers' manners. And that's what a court member who resigned told this particular publication. One of the members is a Kurd from the Patriotic Union of Kurdistan. This comes ahead of a planned session which was set for last Thursday at the request of the public servants in the Kurdistan region, seeking an injunction to compel the federal government to resume salary payments. However, the resignations have cast the session into uncertainty. So I'm not sure how this would affect the business going on in Iraq or what the implications are, but I know that people are getting tired of courts holding up things. And so some of the court members just said, we're just going to retire. We're just going to resign. We're going to step down until y'all make a decision of what you're going to do. And it goes on to talk about the tensions between Erbil and Baghdad and how those tensions intensified it in late May when the federal finance minister halted all budget transfers to the Kurdistan regional government. So you keep hearing people saying when the budget is passed, that's when you're going to see the Iraqi dinar exchange rate be reported on the Forex. But there's no agreements have been reached as of late. So they halted all budget transfer to the Kurdistan region, including the salaries of more than 1.2 million public sector employees. Now, what if the reason why the employees haven't been paid is because they're waiting on the Iraqi dinar to revalue? Maybe they don't want them to be paid. This is just my conjecture here. Maybe they don't want them to be paid in worthless dinar. Maybe they're waiting on a revaluation and then the public servants will be paid with the new rates. That's a possibility. The minister stated that the decision was due to the region exceeding its 12.67% share of the 2025 federal budget. The move has drawn widespread condemnation from Kurdish parties who argue the suspension is politically driven and that this suspension is unconstitutional. So you let me know what you think the implications are of 9 people or top court members resigning. Something has to give. But there in Iraq, we see a lot of things happening. And if you just let me summarize, they just received or they will receive, because it was approved for them to receive $930 million in order to fix or modernize their railway there. And this will bring in jobs. This will upgrade their systems. It will implement safety systems and infrastructure safety. It will implement, safety improvements. They will have, it will bolster community engagement. They will train women for technical assistance. And overall, it's just going to be good for the economy to have improved railways. It will make transport safer and more effective, more efficient. And this is coming on the heels of Iraq being named the transportation hub of the Middle East and of the world, when Iraq connected their transportation system to 66 countries as of April the 1st. So all this is happening at really basically around the same time. And then you had Iraq saying they will attract new investors, both in country or domestically and from abroad. Also, we reported a week or two ago that the Iraqi government has called their entrepreneurs that were abroad to come back home. And the government has committed to training the entrepreneurs to do business right in country. They're going to give them money. They're going to give them resources. They're going to give them workers. They're going to give them all the tools they need to focus on working from home, working in, and when I mean from home, I mean in country. So they sent out a call for all the Iraqi investors to come back home and work there and invest in their own nation.